I don't know about you. I'm super excited about Bert's new special. It's called Lucky. It's coming out on Netflix on March 18th, but you can set a reminder on your Netflix. You can go on Netflix and ask to be reminded when it drops. It's such a great special. I'm so proud of it. So proud of him and so proud of it. So Netflix, March 18th, set a reminder. Lucky is the name of the special. That's why you're here, is for your hothead, your contrary, and my devil's advocate. I love that you described the three of us that way because I think you're right. I do always go, well, we know he raped her, but the other side of rape is now she's enlightened, you know? Let's make the glass half full in all circumstances. Then Sandra was like, have you annotated the book? And I went, I think you're thinking of Kirsten. I
did not annotate this one, but
did it need
it's all in here.
Okay, so Every Summer After by Carley Fortune, another Canadian. You are a Canadian. Her first
we won't
novel.
Hold it against you.
Right? We won't hold it. Let me guess, Cathy.
Oh, we love the ones when Cathy gets salty.
I'm actually not even all that salty about this one. But
A bottle of Sauvignon Blanc and you'll see Cathy. She opens up like a fine bottle of wine. She is the funniest thing drunk. She never gets drunk. I've seen you drunk maybe less than 5 times in the probably 12 years I've known you. Mm-hmm. They're fucking fantastic. She is so mouthy. I mean,
which is why it doesn't happen
mouthy.
often.
Like mouthy, where she'll say something to Steven and I'll be like, what did she just say to Steven? She never talks like that ever. It's the best. So we'll have to do it on the podcast one time.
Oh,
just
that's
open
not
her
terrifying.
It's so fun. I love it. All right, Saucy Kath, what'd you think about this book?
I mean, I don't really have anything saucy to say about it. Like, when I looked at the cover, not that you should judge a book by its cover, but I was like, oh, this is a summer beach read.
Yeah,
like,
me too. Yeah, me too.
This is like, and in my brain, that's what it is. Yeah. It is something that does not require any mental gymnastics. It's entertaining. You read it in 2 days, you toss it inside and never think about it again. Like, there's nothing to say about this book. Like,
I have a lot to say about this book.
I have a lot to say about this book too. But Cathy has nothing to say about this book.
It's fine. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
And I in 3 months, I will not be able to tell you a single thing about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's me and every book these days.
That's called middle age.
Yes. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What did you think about this book?
I am of two minds. So it took me a while, like a long time, to get into it. Not that it wasn't interesting or well written, but knowing that it was going there, because it's written in this format of present day chapter and then flashback. But the flashbacks are the bulk of the book, right?
Yeah.
At least until like 2/3 of the way through. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the present day, she's like 30-ish.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, not very old. But it starts when she's 12. And so we know that it's all leading to sex, to like hot sex.
It took for fucking ever.
But it took forever to get there. But also literally a third of the way, and I counted, a third of the way through, she's still like 13 or something. And so I'm closer to being the parent of a 13-year-old than to me being, reminiscing about my first love at 13. And so as a parent, I was reading this and I could not separate myself from like this 12-year-old, this 13-year-old is going to be having this hot sex. And I just, it wasn't a sexy book for me. Like it took the sexiness out of the book
because she was too young.
I was just imagining her as one of our children. And she was too young and I just could not get invested in it. I was invested in their love story. I was like, oh, how sweet. Mm-hmm. But whenever it was sort of like flashing towards the hot sex, I was like, I don't want to know about them having sex. They're my children.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to try to do book club just a little bit differently this time. Ooh. Okay? So I think when I've been reading the comments, I think a lot of people don't read this book, but they enjoy our conversation. But I think it might be helpful to have like a brief kind of like, what are we talking about moment. So this book is written by a woman. Well, I guess it's first person. whatever person. It's a first person account of this woman's childhood, like you just described, in present day, and then flashing back. They lived in Toronto. They bought a cabin on a lake for the summer when she was in early teens. And her family would spend the summers there. And right next door, there was a family that had 2 sons. One son was her age. One son was 2 years older. And they just got thrown together right from the start. And they spent every summer together at this lake, swimming and working
Instant
in the
best
tavern.
friends.
Instant best friends. Both of them awkward in their own way. She's an only child. We experience her life at home with her friends and her friend drama, and then we experience her life at the lake, and we go back and forth, and we're in her present life with her best friend, and we know that things broke apart somehow with all of these people, and we know because it's sort of, the beach read type book that we're all going to end up together somehow in the end. Every Jane Austen book, they're going to end up together. You just don't know how. So you're reading it for the how. You already know the answer to the question. So
yes, and so the inciting thing at the beginning is the death of the boys, the neighbor boys, the cottage boys' mom. She dies
in present day.
Yes, in present day, and our character, the main character was Persephone.
Yeah.
Persephone, who goes by Percy, gets a call from the older brother. Mom died. We want you to come to the funeral. But we know that she has not. There has been a massive break, a rift. She's not seen these brothers in
12 years.
12 years, I think it was 12 years, long time. And so now we go on this journey through the past to figure out why they broke up. Did you know why it broke from the beginning?
No.
Yes.
You didn't? You didn't predict what happened?
Not at the beginning,
Oh,
but
I did.
halfway through. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it was
I did
clear
pretty
that it was
early.
going there, but at the beginning,
But
no.
I was still disappointed. I was
No.
disappointed in them.
I was
Both of
disappointed
them.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, both
Yeah.
of them.
I called bullshit big time. But I knew that's where it was going. But for me, growing up on a lake, I didn't have neighbor boys, but I did have boys that came to the lake. And when your hormones are raging at that age, of course, you fall in love with every single boy that shows up, a couple of broad shoulders, and you're married in your fantasies that night. I definitely related to that. And I spent a lot of time going, that's so funny. What would life have been like if I had married that boy from the lake, or that boy from the lake, or that boy from the lake? So I had a little bit of nostalgia wrapped up in this world from my own childhood and spending so much time doing exactly some of the things that they're talking about. You've been to Wedowee, not a big town. You've been to my lake house. So I loved being in that environment as a fiction. That I really enjoyed.
I think it was another situation where I would have loved this book much more if I'd read it when I was a lot younger. I feel like if I'd read this as a teenager, oh my God, I would have died.
Yeah.
I would have loved it. If I had read it in my 20s, maybe even in my 30s, but I just feel too old for it. And I didn't like feeling that. I don't like anything that makes me feel old. So I was a little resentful for some of it because I was like, screw you, you're making me feel old.
That's so funny. I never felt old.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Great. So are you saying that I'm the oldest one
Yeah,
in our group?
Yeah,
I'm the
you're-
old goat here.
You're the
Old
old
wet
goat.
blanket.
Although
Yeah, the old wet blanket.
I am technically the oldest one. No, it never made me feel old. It did make me feel like this was a beach read. I did say, well, I don't have the instinct to curl up under a blanket with a cup of cocoa and read about being at the lake. That didn't work. And I kind of wish, I think I would have, this sounds really lame, but I think I would have enjoyed it more in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
I would have been like, it would have made, it's very summery. So bad timing for us for book club for that part. But we were looking for a book with sex because it was Valentine's Day month. And it did have some sex.
I mean, really? Come on. There's
Not
like
enough for
one
Kathy.
sex scene. Okay,
There was
two.
not enough sex
There
for
was
Kathy.
not enough sex in that book. I mean, if we're going to call this a sexy book, come on.
I didn't say it was a sexy book. I said
Okay.
there was sex in the book.
Okay. How many pages is this? There were 2 sex scenes.
There were more than 2.
There was not enough for Cathy. That's the point.
There was not enough for me either. It happened way too late.
It did happen very late in the book, too.
I was
You're
like,
come on.
yes.
Just get it over with already.
But they couldn't because they were 12. They were literally
No,
12 until like
they flash
third of
back
the way
a
through.
lot.
I didn't want them to have sex at 12. But what I
No.
wanted them to have was sex present day. And I know that wouldn't have worked for the structure of the story she was telling. Or if not sex, like a hot makeout sesh. And then have it fall apart. And then spend the rest of the book. Because I wanted to like smell the aroma of the meal I was about to eat.
Wow.
Instead, I had to wait till I walked in the restaurant, eat and leave. You know what I mean? Like the book was like the drive to the restaurant. And then the valet. And then I'm at coat check. And then I'm like, oh, now I guess we're eating everything all at once. And now we're leaving.
Wow.
It's like appetizer, main course, and dessert came out at once.
All at one time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, shit. If they should have made out as soon as she showed up. And then the girlfriend showed up. And then you go, oh boy.
Yeah.
What's going on? There's a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But instead there was just sexual tension. And then the girlfriend showed up and I went, are we fucking or not? I literally thought that in the beginning. Are we fucking or not? As soon as the girlfriend showed up, I went, what are we doing here? Like, I didn't show up here to watch people jump in the lake.
Yeah.
I showed up here for something hot.
No, seriously. And like, deliver fries to deliver pierogies to table 7. I was like, Jesus, like let's moving along.
Hot beef injection. Hot beef injection. Here we come. Yeah, I was, I needed it sooner. I did.
Cathy wanted it. LeeAnn needed it.
Cathy wanted more of it.
I just wanted more of it.
So, and then, but I have to say this, juxtaposed to the parasol toting
Oh, yeah.
Pirates of Penzance that we read, sex in it. The sex was much better here.
Way better. And there was no talk about like throbbing members or, some absurd words.
like parasol.
Yes. Yes.
No parasols. So the sex they did have, I was like, yeah, that's sex. That's great.
No, I think the flaws in the book were me. I think it was the pairing. The pairing was the problem.
The pairing?
That I am just too old for this book.
The pairing of you with the book.
The pairing of me in winter as a wet blanket with this book. But I will say I finished this and I thought, you know what? We just are never doing our research properly on these romance novels. And I Googled middle-aged sex romance novel. And the first title that came up was one called It's Getting Hot in Here. And it's about a woman in perimenopause who's getting hot flashes and she's divorced and she has some sort of hot romance. And I was like, well, that I'm not going to be feeling like
a wet blanket.
Too young. Yeah.
Unless it is a sweaty wet blanket because you have had hot flashes and sweat through your blanket.
The wet neck blanket.
There you go. Well, I mean, that would be on me. I tried to find a sexy book and I read like 3 or 4 books and like the cover and all that. And I like literally Googled like fiction books with sex in it, like something like that.
And this is that's
and
accurate.
It's what it is, but
the sex was not terrible. It was a lot better than, I mean, listen, this is a massive step up from the parasol.
I don't even remember the name of that book.
It doesn't matter.
It was
7 parasols.
The Duke Goes Down. Was it The Duke Goes Down?
Dave Goes Down. Seriously, Dave Goes Down is the book that I'd like to read.
Same.
There are a lot of people that could podcast that one.
Right? And Dave Goes Down. The Duke Goes Down.
Dave goes down 7 times. And
Right.
No funeral.
Comes up with a parasol.
Dave's erect parasol.
Was exploring the cave. The book was easy to read. I thought as a writer, it was a pretty effortless read.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always great. I hate when authors complicate sentences. This sounds really dumb, but
It's not dumb. I 100% hear you, and you are right.
yes. Why complicate? It's a story about a girl and a boy falling in love with the backdrop of a lake and family and friends, and it doesn't need to be flowery, complex language.
Yeah, it's well written.
Yeah, it was well written. It was well thought out. And I thought she did a good job as an author. I mean, it's her first book. Great job. It was easy to read. Most people in the comments said they read it in 24 hours, 2 days. So it's a fast read. Now that we're in March, if you're looking for a spring break read while you're on an island somewhere with your kids or at the beach or
if you're on a
boat.
cruise, imagine us on the cruise last year, just
reading this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was for a beach read, I thought it was great. Wife the Party is sponsored by BetterHelp. Think about your favorite leaders, mentors, and idols. They don't have all the answers, but they do know when to ask questions or seek support from their community. In a society that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better when we have a support system behind us. Therapy can be a source of support for any area of your life. It's time to shift the focus from doing it all to knowing that we're better when we ask for help. I have been in therapy for years, and therapy changes its purpose for me. Sometimes my therapist is a mentor. Sometimes she's a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes she has answers to really deep stuff I've been working on my whole life. But therapy is just a great resource for everyone to have. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/wife to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wife. I liked, did you read her epilogue where she talked about writing this in pandemic?
No,
I don't remember that.
She was an editor by trade, and when the pandemic hit, she'd always wanted to write a fiction. And her husband, said, you should write. You should. Now's the time. We're all at home. Write a fiction. And so she did. And her perspective in writing this book was she really wanted it to be like escape, like a beach read, like a light lift, like it all works out in the end. Everything's a happy ending. And I thought, well, she really achieved that goal. That was well done then. It was cool to hear her perspective on her intention for this book. I think sometimes we are all pretty well read. And I think, although I don't think we're snobs, I do think we have pretty solid standards on what we enjoy and what we like to read. So I wouldn't say we're a tough audience, but we're not pushovers either, the three of us. So for this book, definitely, like you said, I'm not going to be like best book of the year or my most favorite book ever. But when I knew the author's intention for what she wanted to create, I thought she did a great job. It's like someone saying, I'm really into sugar cookies, and you being a pastry chef and going, well, I love this array of desserts, but a good sugar cookie is still a good sugar cookie.
Yep.
And I think she wrote a good sugar cookie.
Yeah. Agreed.
It was fun, and I would totally recommend it if someone said, hey, I'm going on a trip, I want something I don't have to think, I don't have to process.
Absolutely.
I just get to escape into this little world for a couple days.
Yeah.
That freaking checks the box.
I know my college-age daughter loves romance. So I will definitely pass that on to her, because I just think that with the teen romance stuff, and then I remember as a younger person always wanting to look ahead a bit. So imagine yourself at 30, 10 years from now. I just feel like it would really hit.
Oh, yeah.
For a 20-year-old.
That's good. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because while I was reading this, I was on a trip when I was reading this. I thought about talking about this, and then I totally forgot because I didn't write it down. What I found really interesting as I read this book and processed how I was processing the sex in the book, I thought to myself, we grew up, our generation grew up with movies that had a lot of sex scenes in them. And movies don't have sex scenes anymore. I mean, every movie. Porky's had a sex scene. You know, Revenge of the Nerds, sex scene. 9.5 Weeks is like a softcore porn. You name, Against All Odds, sex scene. Every James Bond movie, sex scene. And they just don't make movies like that anymore. And I know that there was, you know, the point of view that there's an objectification of women in those sex scenes, that there's a lot of negative and perhaps maybe even sexual abuse in a lot of sex scenes that happened in the 70s, 80s, 90s in the movies we grew up watching. But the reverse of that, I was wondering when we were reading this book, is we had an exposure to sex that normalized some of the good parts of sex too, of enjoying sex, of being free sexually, of being curious sexually, or having a desire, you know, to sexually desire someone. It's really, at least as far as I can tell, for my kids, that's not really part of what's going on in society. You know, my mom took me to see Against All Odds, which was a totally inappropriate movie. I think I was like 12 at the time. And there's like Jeff Bridges is like fucking people in this movie naked. James Woods is like naked. I saw it not long ago on cable and I was like, I saw that movie in the movie theater, and it was like 1982. But my mom didn't think twice about it. And maybe that was just my mom. But at the same time, I just found it interesting. I just thought it was interesting. What do you think about that? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think I just saw a headline. I did not even click on it, but I saw an entertainment news headline that was, I think it was Rob Lowe. I hope I'm not. It doesn't really matter. It's not bad for Rob Lowe, but it was an actor from the 80s talking about how if you were in a movie, you had to prepare to be in a sex scene. Like you just expect that was expected of actors. If you were cast in a movie, there would be a sex scene. You're just like waiting until you get to the page in the script. Whereas now it's so different. And now whoever the actor was saying now it's considered brave to do a sex scene. And he's like, that was like my whole life.
It was standard.
Yeah. So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Interesting. How do you think it affects young people these days? How do you think it affected you?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, it was normalized, definitely. So it was like, well, this is a part of a relationship. So, you know, in that sense, it's positive that there wasn't like shaming of like, oh, like sex. What is this? It's like, oh, it's just a part of every relationship because it's in every movie.
Or that it was scary. I think for our kids growing up with Me Too, sex then had a scary element to it. Like we knew about rape and date rape and stuff like that, but in a very kind of ancillary, out there, you know, maybe that wasn't healthy, but the pendulum swinging the other way where it's not presented in a positive way. And all we're hearing is like Harvey Weinstein and all these crazy people and all, you know, all that was happening when our kids were in middle school, which is exactly when I was reading Forever and these books with sex in them. Well, I only read Forever, the one book that had sex in it. But
we just read it multiple times.
I just read it over and over. I did. I read it over and over and over. You reading that book again? Yeah. But our kids just don't have any experience of that in the way that we did. In that I know there are books, like the book Sandra talked about in the beginning, where people read where there's some sex in it, but it's like, that's like fairies. They're not people, human beings. Or maybe they are. I haven't read the book.
Interesting.
But it's not like this book we read could really happen. All of it.
Oh, yeah.
All of it's like a real possible relationship with
very
people.
realistic.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Like, I wonder if kids are not reading realistic fiction these days, right? A lot of books are very fantasy based. Mm-hmm. So even if they are being exposed to sex or whatever, it's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
And how does that affect their interpersonal relationships? Maybe it doesn't, but I just have that question. How does that affect it? And how does our exposure to it compare to their exposure to it, to your point, where every single film script had a sex scene in it? I mean, I saw every variety of boob by the time I was, 20 from every movie you ever saw. And yes, that's objectifying women. But also, to me, the perspective is, well, that is a desirable thing to look at. That's beautiful. That's attractive. Penises were not being flashed all over the screen because not so pretty compared. I mean, maybe that's subjective, but how does that message? Like, if it's desirable to see boobs, then it's a woman is also desirable. You see what I'm trying to see the positive side of the negative side of the coin. We all know about objectifying women, and that I think we can all agree on. But the other side of that, what is the positive effect of the messaging being, this is what beauty looks like, or this is what desire looks like, maybe?
Well, this is a little bit on a different tangent, but in terms of what is happening on the college campus of my eldest child.
Oh boy.
And I believe it's tomorrow night. There is sex toy bingo.
What?
Yes. It is a bingo game where the big prizes are sex toys.
What?
Yeah.
Can we sign up?
I follow.
Is that creepy if the three of us show up on campus and go, we hear there's bingo?
That might make it weird. It might make it a little weird.
But now you've given me an idea for my next bingo night.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah. So in terms of the pendulum swinging, there's definitely some, like, that has clearly been okayed by the adults of the organization.
Right.
Yeah. So there's some normalizing.
So they don't need
and
to
it's,
watch
it's
movies
not
with
a
boobies.
liberal arts college or anything. In fact, I wouldn't
And
say
it's in a pretty conservative part of the country, right?
yeah, it's not. It's
Yeah. It's in a conservative part of the country.
yes.
It's not in San Francisco.
No.
Yeah.
It's not California.
Yeah. It's not
It is
California.
Not California.
Yeah. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Anyway, just something I was pondering when I was out of town.
Yes.
There are some discussion questions at the back.
Oh, I didn't even get to
I
those.
saw them. I didn't read them though.
I read a few of them, and some of them I thought were kind of interesting. Sam and Percy's romantic relationship began when they were very young. Do you think it would have survived had they not broken up? Did they need the time apart to end up together? I thought that was an interesting
That is
question.
a good question. That's a great question.
Did they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you think so?
I don't know. I mean,
Because Cathy was 12 when she got together
yeah,
with
pretty
Steve.
much. And we had a breakup, and it was, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they probably wouldn't have grown enough individually if they had been together since they were 12. And sometimes you need some space away in order to grow as your own human person before you can come back to that relationship. I think 12 years was excessive, but
Stubborn is stubborn.
Yeah.
She seemed pretty
she
stubborn.
was very
Ain't
stubborn.
that the truth?
She's very stubborn. Very, very stubborn. I think they had to be apart because of the thing that broke them apart. I don't want to spoil the book. Not that it's that big of a spoiler, but I don't think they would have gotten over that at a young age.
Agreed. Yeah.
No. There would have
But
been
the
no
thing that broke
forgiveness.
them up wouldn't have happened if they hadn't.
Broken up.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Hormones are hormones, and somebody was horny.
Discuss.
Clearly.
How did Percy's betrayal change your opinion of her? Do you sympathize with what she did, or do you think her act is forgivable?
I did not think it was cool. I had some problems with it. I didn't think it was very cool. I get that she was young-ish, but wrong is wrong.
What'd you think, Kath?
I don't know. I think she was young and stupid. Yeah, sure, she shouldn't have done it, but like I wouldn't hold it against her. I think the other person was like, that was not cool. Not cool at all.
Yeah, I just think it was not cool of either of them.
Agreed, but I give her more of a pass.
I think it was not cool of either one of them either. But I agree with you. I think the the third party was really, he was an older person. Should've-
Everyone needs to read the book to know what we're talking about.
Agreed.
As a teenager, Percy looks up to Sue, the boy's mom, perhaps more than her own parents. Why do you think that is?
Because she was more like Sue. Sue was more of a free spirit, and her parents were both university professors and very intellectual, very serious, and she was artistic, a writer. I don't know.
What do you think?
I think her parents were just,
Drips.
rigid. Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't talk about sex. They didn't talk about relationships. They didn't talk about any of that stuff. Like her mom sneaks condoms in, but doesn't address it. You know what I mean? Like, whereas, Sue is like, hold on. Anyone having sex in this house, it's going to be safe. You know what I mean? She's like out there in the open. She respects kids as like who they are and where they're at. Whereas the other parents just sort of turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
So it's hard to relate to that.
Yeah. I thought Sue was more relatable to her. Maybe this is exactly what you two are saying too. She's just more relatable.
Yeah.
Than
She
her
was
own
younger
parents.
too. Her parents are a lot older.
In the final chapter, Sam tells Percy betrayals don't cancel each other out. They just hurt more. Do you agree with him, or do you think getting even has some merit?
I think he's right. I think he's a very wise young man.
Oh, here's one. Have you had an important relationship, either platonic or romantic, that ended in a way that you wish you could get a do-over? Mine is nope.
Yeah, I've always thought that things happen and they help propel you to where you are now. So if you learned a hard lesson, there was purpose in that. And you might not have learned that lesson if you had a do-over.
Right. What do you think, Cathy? Is there one you need a do-over?
I don't know that I need a do-over. No. Obviously, like there's different choices you would make in life, but I wouldn't ask for a relationship do-over.
Yeah, mine's pretty clear. Mine's no.
Yeah.
No, I'm that way too. I don't. Not that I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I don't have any regret. I mean, that's a weird thing to say. I don't have any regrets. That's pretty arrogant. Of course, there are things I could have done better, that I would have been a better person. But I believe what you were saying too. If someone's supposed to be in your life, then you figure out how to work it out. And if they're not, then they're not. And I don't have anybody tugging at me that I go, I really wish I had, XYZ to make up with this broken. I don't have that. No. We're too old. That question was for 30-something, right?
See, we're too old for the book.
That's what I mean. Wife the Party is sponsored by Via. Life moves fast, and sometimes you just need a way to relax, recharge, or stay focused without complicating things. That's where Via comes in. If you haven't tried them yet, you're seriously missing out. Whether you need to unwind, refocus, or boost your mood, Via is here to enhance your everyday and night. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, Via is changing the game in natural wellness, blending powerful, high-quality hemp-derived ingredients to deliver real, effect-driven benefits. Whether you're looking to sleep better, have better libido, improve focus, recover, or simply relax, Via has a tailored solution just for you. With products ranging from 0 to high cannabinoid levels, Via lets you fully customize your experience to fit your needs. Whether you're looking to support your daily wellness routine, enhance focus and clarity, or unwind with deep relaxation, Via has you covered. From their award-winning effect-forward gummies to premium indoor-grown THCA flower and calming drops, every Via product is thoughtfully crafted, made with organic lab-tested hemp sourced from trusted independent American-owned farms. And the best part, Via legally ships across the U.S., discreet, direct to your door, no medical card required, and backed by a worry-free guarantee. Not sure where to start? Take Via's Product Finder quiz to get personalized recommendations tailored to your needs. It can take you less than 60 seconds to complete. So, if you're 21 and over, treat yourself to 15% off and get a free gift with your first order using our exclusive code WIFE at viahemp.com. Plus, enjoy free shipping on orders over $100. That's VIIAHEMP.com. I have a hard time sleeping. I have all through menopause, and a gummy that helps you just ease into sleep is a nice way, or is actually where I started with Via. So if you're having trouble sleeping, maybe that's where you start. If you're 21 and over, check out the link to Via in our description and use the code WIFE to receive 15% off, free shipping on orders over $100. And if you're new to Via, get a free gift of your choice. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via. Anything else we want to say about this book?
No, it's fun. Read it. Like it's
I'd
super
recommend it.
easy and fun. Like yeah, it's light reading.
Yeah.
And as a Canadian, she threw in a lot of great Canadian references.
She did?
So
I
I
thought
appreciated that.
That's good. I know the whole book I kept going, Kirsten's going to like that part.
Yeah.
Kirsten's going to like that part. Okay, so here's the book club book I wanted to do, but now that we have the Court of Thorn and Roses thrown in the mix, and you had something else you said you wanted to talk about, didn't you?
Oh, no, I was just going to tell you about It's Getting Hot in Here.
Oh, it's getting hot in here. Should we read that one? So I started reading because I finished this book like a couple weeks ago because it's such an easy read that somebody I was talking to, we were talking about books that have been around a long time that were made into movies or that were really good that everybody was talking about at a time that I might have missed that I didn't read. And this person told me about Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Oh yeah. Such a good book.
I had never read it.
So good.
So I started reading it. So I was like, we should book club this book because there's a lot to talk about in this book. But if you've already read it.
Well, I would have to reread it.
I was going to say, I read it a long
I read it when it
time
came
ago.
out.
In 94.
Yeah, and I never saw the movie.
I didn't either.
No, I never saw the movie, but
But the book is so good.
Yeah, I started
remember
reading the
loving
book.
it. But
It's a good book. So I was going to suggest that and then see if you were interested in reading that. And if so, awesome, because it would
Great.
be a fun read and we know it's a good book.
Yeah.
So we would enjoy it. But
and actually, that's one of the things that I put on my list of resolutions for this year was to maybe look at I have all my books in Goodreads and like look at the ones that I gave 5 stars to and reread some of them because, why not? Like
Why not?
something that I
Right.
really loved. Why
Mhm.
not go for a good book?
see if you still really
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it? I read a book. What book was it? This Is Where I Leave You, which they made into a movie. And I remember reading that book going, this is the best book I have read in forever. I loved it so much. And then I reread it and I went, it's a good book. But I did not have that same reaction.
Did
the
we book
second
club that?
time. I don't remember.
No, I don't think so. It sounds familiar though.
It was still good, but I remember the first time being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the second time I was like, okay, it's pretty good. So it's interesting when you go back over time to see how you react.
Yes.
I'd be interested to see what you think about Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil since you read it when it came out. I missed it somehow. I didn't.
Yeah, and
I
it was
didn't read
like the 90s.
It was
or
like
something?
94, I think.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Okay, well, let's read that for our next book club book. And then The Court of Thorn and Roses, I am not opposed to reading. Have either of you read these books?
Okay, I have not. I've got a couple of notes.
Okay.
Before I commit.
Is this like a teen?
It's fairy sex.
Okay. Then I don't know anything about this book.
Yeah, on the surface, I am not interested in fairy sex.
Same. I'm not either.
Also, I seem to recall those are very long, and you know how
They
I feel
are.
about egregiously long.
Are they very long?
Unclear.
Sandra, are they very long?
Is this like a trilogy?
I think it's a quintilogy.
It's about the same size as the Every Summer After book.
Oh,
What does that mean, though? Because this is like a really,
easy read.
yeah, there are a lot of chapters. Like, I don't know. I'm really into white space on a page.
There are
Like,
a lot of chapters.
No, well, do you know what I mean? Like, do you remember when I brought In our old book club, remember when I brought My Struggle?
Yes. Oh my God.
And
do you remember that?
oh my God. And it was my struggle because it was my introduction to the book club. And I was like, oh my God, everybody hates me now because I've asked all these moms with little kids to read this 1,000,000-page long book that has no white space. There were no chapter breaks. It was just one long book that
Stream of consciousness.
It went on and on
Yeah,
and
it
on.
did.
And I was like, they are going to kill me. They're going to excommunicate me. I'm not going to have any friends.
And that happened. We did excommunicate you.
Well,
No.
we stopped reading
We
books
stopped
and
reading-
that
Yes.
book club folded.
killed the-
and
it
I was
killed
like,
the club.
coincidence? Unclear.
You killed the club.
Yeah.
We just made our own
Wet
little
blanket.
club where we felt like we could control you. We're not doing that, Kirsten. No. So we'll read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and then we'll think about Court of Thorn and Roses or whatever. Roses
I would consider it.
and
It's just that when it's like 500 pages long and there's not a lot of white space, I'm like, it becomes a chore instead of a joy.
Of course. Yes.
And
So the
If it has
reason
good sex, it's not a chore.
fairy sex
Fairy
too.
sex.
I mean, fairy sex.
You get to go
does
where
that
you've never been
mean?
before.
Listen,
Exactly.
you know that I'm flexible to a point. I just don't I like when this is a joy and
Yes.
we're like, oh, we're reading something and it's fun and we have opinions, whatever. I'm sure I'll have opinions on fairy sex. But like if my overarching opinion is just like, this is taking up all my time and
Yeah,
I'm
and I
resentful,
hate it. Yeah.
then
We blame
That's-
Sandra. I mean, it's easy. No. I hear you. So we'll put a pin in that.
Okay.
We'll do Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Put a pin in that.
And all of your listeners can write to you and tell about how we have to read A
Yeah,
Court of
why we
Thorns and
should.
Roses or why we should not.
it has
Kirsten is
apparently-
right. It's 700 pages long and there's no white space. Or no, Sandra is absolutely onto something. You will love the fairy sex. You think you won't, but you will love it.
Best sex I've ever had. Fairy sex. No,
Maybe the wings are like a vibrator or something.
well, I know this. It has like almost a cult following.
Oh, yeah.
It's like people are super intensely into the books,
Yeah.
which is interesting to me. Now, to your point, I may not want to finish the book, but I am curious to see what
It's all about.
Mhm.
Sure. Okay. Okay, fine. You've got me. I'm curious. I want to know what it's all about because I think my eldest child might be reading that quintilla.
Yes, I think Isla listened to it.
Uh-huh.
I think she listened to the audiobook and really liked it. Based on the books they took from the free library in the Dowie. Now I understand why, since it's a sex book. But I'm sure it's not just a sex book, and I'm sure there'll be people going like, it's so much more than that. But anyway, we'll think about that. And then if there's any
I would
other,
commit to trying that book, but if it's 1,000,000 pages long and then I don't
we
wanna commit to
understand. You
finishing.
have parameters. I got you.
I've
It
got a lot
can't
of
be too long. It's got to have a lot of white space, and I mean,
I've got a lot of boundaries.
At the end of the day, I'm going to resent you, but I'll do it. So, boy, this sounds amazing. Let's do it, Kirsten. I'm excited.
Oh my God. That is my role in the book club, is to be the wet blanket, isn't it? It's like Cathy is the contrarian, you are the devil's advocate, and I am apparently the wet blanket. I thought that I was the hothead because I either love something or I hate it, but I think I'm actually the wet blanket.
No, I think you're the hothead. You're the hothead wet blanket. You're the
hot blanket.
Yes, you're the hot wet blanket.
I'm passionate about if I love it or I hate it. And I
You
don't
do.
have a lot of middle ground.
You have strong opinions, but I love that. No, but that is
Sounds so unappealing. A 52-year-old woman who has really strong opinions, it's like, oh my God, cross to the other side of the street. Like,
no. We'll just start calling you Karen.
oh my God, I'll kill you.
You know I'm kidding. I love that you. Why would someone listen to this podcast going, well, their opinions are kind of in the middle?
It was okay.
That's stupid. That's a waste of your time and mine and everybody else's. That's why you're here. It's for your hothead, your contrary, and my devil's advocate. I love that you described the three of us that way because I think you're right. I do always go, well, we know he raped her, but the other side of rape is now she's enlightened, Let's make the glass half full in all circumstances, right? Bank robbery, but he may have needed the money. You never know. This is how I live with the man I live with. He's a slob, but guess what? It fuels his creativity. What you gonna do?
What else we got? What else is going on?
About spring break. Your people coming home for spring break?
Spring break.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, we don't
Spring
have spring break anymore. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, she's coming back in a week and a half.
Oh, good. Yeah. How long's her break?
A week.
Okay.
Yeah.
She excited to come home?
She is. Yeah, but she's also having a great time this whole year.
Is she going to bingo sex? Sex bingo? Whatever.
Sex toy bingo.
Sex toy bingo.
I don't know. When I sent it to her, she hearted it on Instagram, so I don't know if that.
Wait a minute. You sent it to her?
Yeah. I follow all the things like the different. I follow her school on Instagram, and so when I see something cool, I'm like, "Oh, did you see they have late night breakfast on Thursday?" And she'll be like, "Oh, that's great," or whatever. And because sometimes there's like so much. I would say it's like college these days is like a really expensive preschool. It's like my kids when I went to preschool, we like made macaroni art, and when my kids went to preschool, it was like the reptile family is coming on Thursday, and like, the peacock is coming to, like, it was just constantly like, oh my God, like it's constant stimulation and
larger
exciting
than life.
things. Yeah. And that's what college seems to be these days. It's like there's just so many fun things. I mean, they literally have petting zoos, like literal petting zoos.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Georgia's
preschool.
college has that too.
Yeah.
Isla's does not. Hers just has a lot of furries.
Which you cannot pet.
No.
Sort of like an evolution from preschool, but
yes, exactly. Which is better, the petting zoo or as a petting zoo? To have one or to be one? Not sure. Anyway, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
She'll be home. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. And then the other one doesn't have spring break until later, but I think we're going to do like college tours.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. Does your one come home for spring break or is...
Actually, no.
You don't know?
I have no idea. I don't actually even know when his spring break is.
No.
No, I have not been on top of it. I haven't really.
It's not a matter of not on top. He's also that much older and also so relatively speaking close to home. So it doesn't involve a lot of you to get him back.
Correct.
Here. So
it does not require much of anything. So he'll either show up or not. I'm sure I'll
You'll
find
see him
out.
at some
I
point.
imagine he'll be home, but I have no idea when.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
My girls are coming home. They were not going to come home.
Do they have similar breaks?
Nope. Isla has this weekend, next week, and then she's done.
Mm-hmm.
She's staying at school for the weekend because she's going to a concert on, I think, that Monday after.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's coming home. She wasn't going to come home at all. And we just went to visit her last weekend. And we happened to be, she's on the East Coast, and we happened to be on the East Coast for business. And I was like, well, let's just go see Isla while we're here because she's not coming home for spring break. So we won't see her till Parents' Day, which is in April. And so we went. We were only there for like 30 hours. It was a really fast visit. But we took her and her roommates to dinner, and then we were like, well, what do you want to do now? And she said, well, I want to stay in your hotel room with you and not get out of bed for the entire day tomorrow. So we had a king size bed with like a suite with like a pull-out couch or whatever. And I was like, well, I should get us a 2 queen size bedroom. Let's just change rooms. And she was like, no, I want it like this. So she kicked her dad on the sleeper sofa, who had to sleep diagonally on the sleeper sofa because he was longer. And so she could sleep with me. And she held my hand while we slept, which has never been this child. That was Georgia her whole life. And then we woke up and she just wanted to binge watch TV and order room service and not get out of her pajamas. And she wanted me in the middle and her on one side and dad on the other in this king size bed. And I was literally like,
oh my goodness,
a cocoon. I was like, I had no arms, no legs. I could not move. I couldn't get out of bed. And she laid on me. And if Bert got up, as soon as he would get up, she'd go, where are you going? What are you doing? Back in bed. And she just didn't want us to leave. And so then she said, I think I need to come home for spring break. I was like, okay, no problem. So she's coming home Tuesday to Sunday. It's really, really fast. And I was like, what do you want to do? And she said, binge watch The Bachelor and not leave the house. It's like, okay. Awesome. I love The Bachelor. I don't love The Bachelor. But you do what your kid wants to do. Yeah. And so I'll be binge watching The Bachelor.
It's very exciting.
Yes. And then Georgia's studying abroad, and she is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How was your trip?
It was really great. We went to see her. She is very homesick. She is doing good. She's in a town that speaks no English at all.
Wow.
And so her immersion program is truly an immersion program. Like she can't go anywhere and talk to anybody without using Spanish. And
Cool.
Her host mom is in her 60s, speaks no English, and this program doesn't allow her to have friends over, and she can't go to her other friends in this program. She can't go to their house either. So she can only meet them like in cafes or in parks and stuff. And I think that's kind of a bit tiresome. You know, you just have to go have a cup of coffee or sit on a park bench or go for a walk. And this town is not a tourist town. There's no tourism to speak of in where she is. It's it's only like 30,000 people in the town. So it's not like she's in, Paris. It's like you can see that cathedral again, or you can see the cathedral again. So she's doing a lot of hiking. And, this program requires that she eats lunch and dinner with her host mom Monday through Friday. And so she's required to talk to this woman who's 60
Whoa.
all day, every day.
That's intense.
And she's fucking 20. She doesn't want to hang out with a 60-year-old woman all day, every day when she's not in class with her peers. And so I think she's just weary of that piece of it.
That sounds exhausting.
I think she said when she goes to sleep at night, her brain is so tired because she's just had to speak and in this other language. And she didn't go into this program a proficient speaker.
Is it really, does she feel dramatically improved?
Oh, she spoke Spanish the whole time we were there because I don't speak any Spanish. Bert thinks he speaks Spanish when really what he's saying is, me got knees on elbow too. And you're like, what'd you just say? I just ordered a beer. And you're like, what? And Georgia would go, he did not just order a beer. He just said something. I don't even know what he said. So he was speaking the language, but it wasn't really making sense. So she got us through everything, speaking pretty fluently. I mean, for what? It was pedestrian language. I'm sure she couldn't have it big, but she has to read. She has
and she's been there for a minute now.
2 months.
I'm sure she's learned a ton.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And she's been to other surrounding cities that are pretty big places. And so she's had, she keeps saying, she texted me when we got back and she said, I'm really sad. I'm really kind of tired and weary, but I understand that I'm going to be really glad I did this when I'm done. So she's got the right perspective, but she's just kind of cooked. We had a good time. We slept. We're not traveling well lately. We're not sleeping right. When you go those far distances, you try and sleep when you're supposed to be asleep where you're going. And we couldn't neither Bert nor I could do that. So when we got there, our sleep was all wacky and we just didn't sleep good. And we came back really tired. But it was fun. It was beautiful. It was good to see her.
Yeah.
At the end of the trip, she was like, when you were coming, I really wanted Isla to be here. But now that you've been here, I think it was really nice to just have my parents to myself. And I was like, both of our kids, I think, are having a moment.
They just needed their touchstone.
I think they just needed mom and dad. So I'll be glad to get him home for spring break. I was supposed to travel with Bert because Isla was going to be gone for spring break. But now that she's home, I'm not. I'm going to stay home with her. And that'll be cool too, because I'll just be the two of us, which is what the last few years were, So that'll be fun. All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up now. But thank you for reading the book. I appreciate it. Thank you. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Next book.
All right.
Okay. Should be a quick read.
Yeah,
right?
I'm into it.
I don't remember.
I don't
it being
remember
a
if it's
long
long or
book.
not, but I do
I don't
remember it's good.
anything about that book. I remember I kept the book for the longest time. So I must have liked it because generally if I didn't like a book, I would just,
Get rid of
donate
it.
it.
Yeah, same here. But I think
I had it for the longest
got
time.
purged eventually.
Oh,
But
I definitely don't have it anymore. But
Yeah,
I did.
Keep it for a long
was
time.
good.
Yeah. So
Okay, good. Well, I'll be a good read.
Yeah.
Yeah.